Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us on this week's digital edition of Overdrive. I'm Sohini Dutt. Now, earlier this week, we did air the premiere of the 2020 Honda City, and we expected the sedan to garner its fair share of attention and interest, but your questions really overwhelmed us. But now we've decided to go a step further and get you the comparison test of the recently facelifted Skoda Rapid versus the Hyundai Verna, the petrol variants. Mind you, this is the shorter version of the actual in-depth review, which will be premiering at 7:30 p.m. today across our various social media platforms. Take a look at this story.
This is the Skoda Rapid, conceived almost a decade ago. This is the Hyundai Verna, updated version of the car that was launched in 2017. Now, both these cars are united by the common thread of the body style, the segment that they operate in, and also the engine configuration. 1-litre, 3-cylinder turbo petrol. So which one is the better car? In terms of dimensions, the Rapid is marginally smaller than the Verna, but the angular design adds a sense of width and length. The Verna has gone more angular than before, more so for the turbo variant, and the imposing grille and the busy bumper design adds more modern touches, which coupled with the complex lighting elements imparts a premium stance. The Rapid wears a Monte Carlo badge in this racy shade of red, with its 16-inch alloys finished in a dual-tone scheme. The Verna wears a turbo badge and flaunts a honeycomb pattern on the rear bumper, which looks polarizing in my opinion. While I like simple designs that age well, I would side with the Verna on this one. It looks premium and fast and is an attention grabber. The 8-inch infotainment is the big talking point for the Rapid's cabin, and this is something that was exclusive to the Monte Carlo range, and now you get it on the lower trims as well. Now, think of this as an Android tablet that is placed into the dashboard, which means that it can connect to your phone, do some Android things. It can also let you install and access some apps, including Netflix. So if you want to watch a movie on the screen, well, you can do that. Ergonomics and space utilization is, in fact, very last generation with this car. And yet, there is something very likable about the Rapid's cabin, even after all these years. The Verna's cabin is the best in class, at least as of now. Now, the instrumentation is all digital, the layout very easy to read, very functional as well. It's got a soothing display and the colors and everything is really nice. The infotainment, it sort of complements that in terms of the colors and the layout and all of that, but then the screen size, I believe, is a little too small for this category of car. I would have liked a larger screen size. But then again, the infotainment itself, the system itself is at the top of the class with connected technologies and all of that. So this is right now the best that you get in this particular category. The fit, as always, is excellent for the class, but in this all-black treatment, the shiny, scratchy plastics are a bit of a letdown. The front seats are ventilated and more supportive in the Verna though, and at the rear, it has marginally better space and comfort than the Rapid. Both these cars have the common thread of the 1-litre 3-cylinder turbocharged petrol engines, both churning out over 110 PS, and the differences are pretty astonishing. The 1-litre TSI engine in the Rapid is so much enjoyable to drive. Now with the Polo, this same engine returned about 9.4 second 0 to 100 sprint. The Rapid, even with its slightly larger size and all of that, isn't too far behind, 9.8 seconds. That is the same zone as the Mark 1 Skoda Octavia RS. That is how much the technology and the TSI goodness has improved over the years. It's improved by leaps and bounds. So even if the chassis and the electronics architecture is aging, the engine is right up there, and it is a clear indication of where technology has headed in all these years. So as of now, the Rapid 1.0 can only be had with a 6-speed manual transmission. The same 6-speed torque converter automatic from the Polo will make its way into this engine bay by about August or September is what Skoda tells us. So if you are to buy it before the festive season, the manual is your only option. There's no DSD for this one. In fact, if you're going to use these cars in the city only, the Verna feels more convenient in all respects. The Rapid belongs on the highways and the twisties. So the Verna's engine settles into an idling RPM of about 900 revs, which is nice, but then the 3-cylinder vibrations, pulsations, you feel that not only in the pedals but also in the seat, and that's not something that I like. But it gets off the mark quite cleanly. Now 120 PS sounds really nice on paper. It's also more than what the Rapid offers, but when you do a 0 to 100 run, well, this is slower than the Rapid by a good 2.5 seconds. In In fact, it's also slower than its own sibling, the Verna 1.5 petrol manual, and it's all because of the overcautious DCT gearbox, which always launches in a restrained manner to keep the gearbox safe and will keep dropping significant revs with each shift. But the engine has a linear power build-up and never feels out of breath even at lower revs. So while the Rapid 1.0 TSI is the ideal enthusiast car between these two, it's hard to ignore the Verna's feel-good factor that comes with the new age equipment and the DCT gearbox. But what is also hard to ignore is the new Honda City.
Now I'll just bring in Simran Rastogi and Rohit Paradkar. They have driven these cars. Hi guys, thanks for joining us on the show today.
Hello.
Hi,
Right,
so you guys have had the privilege of driving 3 cars, in fact, the new Skoda Rapid, the Verna, as well as the Honda City. So I'll let you take this discussion forward.
in fact, three models that you mentioned, and almost all the variants that they have to offer. Unfortunately, the Rapid Rider is not what we could drive for this review, though we would have loved to see what all it offers because it's got a very tempting price tag. In fact, I'm guessing Simran is already doing his calculations. He's doing his math on what the EMI structure is going to be, what the finance is going to be like for the Rapid Rider, because it is genuinely at that price bracket where it makes more sense over some of the hatchbacks and compact sedans, like we said in our review. So, Simran, why don't you take this over? Because you have been writing a lot of stories about these sedans as well. You have also
That's true.
just uploaded the Verna versus Honda City last evening. So I'm sure our viewers have already checked it out. If you haven't, head over to overdrive.in after this session. But Simran, what do you have to say about these three cars now?
I think it's been a long time coming. We've had basically no action in the sedan segment for what, 2.5, 3 years nearly. So the Rapids come in with a nice new engine. The Vento has that same new engine. You have the new Verna come in with 3 new engines, and the City with basically BS6 updates to its engine and the all-important twin cam update to its IV Tech engine. So a lot of excitement for petrol heads. The people who are buying diesel cars before, I think if we look at sales figures, people who are buying the Verna were basically looking at the 1.6 diesel. I think that was a strong favorite for people. Unfortunately, that engine hasn't made it through the BS6 transition. It's a 1.5 diesel now, but we've tested that car as well, and it's got adequate figures. It's got good performance.
Right, so these are the test figures from the story as well. In fact, when you see the longer version of the story, Rohit has elaborated a bit more about this, right?
Yes, in fact, I have. And what you see on the screen, especially what I need to draw your attention to, is the acceleration figure, where you have the turbocharged Rapid doing a 9.8 seconds, which is very close to what the original Skoda Octavia RS managed when it came to India. So now the Rapid is doing that with a 1-liter engine. So that speaks volumes about where technology is headed. And then you also have the new Honda City, which is managing the exact same figure with its naturally aspirated 1.5-liter motor. So if you guys watched the Honda City review, which went on air a little while back on the Overdrive YouTube channel, that grin was very hard to erase off my face, and that's because I was genuinely impressed with the kind of engine that Honda has managed with the new 1.5. It just took me back to the original Honda City that I had the privilege of owning for quite some time, and it's absolutely like that. It brings back that feel, that rev happy motor, that punchy motor, and like Simran's also written in a story, there's like a second power band that kicks in at about 6,000 RPM, and that again puts a big smile on your face that the engine's been hiding something all along, and it just gives you all that power and torque, which is something that was missing from the segment for quite some time now. And now you have three options to choose from if you are an enthusiast, and again many options to choose from if you are a commuter. You don't necessarily have to go with an SUV or a crossover. The sedans are back at it, and they have everything that you can expect out of them to pamper you, from connected technologies to big space to big sunroof to very comfortable seating and ride quality. So you have all of that now coming back to the executive sedan space, and that's exactly what we've experienced all of last week.
Now, we were excited about the petrol engine, of course, coming into the Honda City, but we still have a question coming in from Akash Rugani. He wants to know which is better, the Honda City diesel or the Hyundai Verna diesel. Simran, would you like to take that question?
Sure. So the one car that we haven't had a chance to drive is actually the Verna diesel with the new 1.5 BS6 diesel. It is the same diesel engine that's in the Creta and the Seltos with exactly the same power figures. What we can tell you is that the Honda diesel, if you've had experience of the 1.5 liter diesel engine before, which could sound a little gruff, that's been vastly improved in the new Honda City in the move to BS6. It's cleaner burning and it sounds a lot better. In fact, the refinement levels on the improved engine and the overall package of the City has improved so much that it doesn't even feel like the same engine anymore. So where the refinement levels of the 1.5 liter diesel in the Hyundai are very good, we must say the one in the new City should be par. The only thing I can think of is maybe the power band in the Verna's case might be a little wider than the power band in the City's case, which might mean that the Verna might make for a better car in the City. But definitely stay tuned. We're going to have a comparison coming up for you on that as well.
I
All right.
completely agree
And
with what Simran's saying. The only bit that I would like to add is what I also said in my review of the Honda City, the standalone review, is the diesel engine does run out of breath when you're on the highway or if you're driving in a spirited manner around the twisties. So if you are an enthusiast, if this question is coming from a driving enthusiast and you want that punch from your diesel motor, the Verna's engine will certainly give you a better punch because it's the same engine that we have tested in the Seltos and the Creta, and it's beautiful. The amount of power and torque that it has, the way it delivers all of that, it's just a better engine compared to Honda's 1.5. So if you are an enthusiast and you're looking for a diesel option, then it's better that you go with the Verna. But if you are a commuter, like Simran said, in the city with the wider power band, again, the Verna could give you a very nice balance of good fuel economy, good drivability. But at the same time, the Honda City is not going to lag far behind because it's improved on the refinement, it's improved on fuel economy, it's improved on the gearbox performance as well. So if you're a commuter, I don't think you will go wrong choosing either one of the cars. It's going to boil down to what features matter more to you, more than how the engine performs.
all right. We also have a question from Lenin coming in. He's interested in knowing what makes the Verna stand way ahead of the new City. Rohit?
In fact, I'll let Simran take this because he's compared the two cars now. And which one was the winner in your story, Simran?
Right. So if you guys haven't checked out that story yet, it's on the Overdrive website and it's a comprehensive story where we've put in basically all the data that we know on every single car in the segment, everything that we could cover. What makes the Verna stand out over the City? I think the one feature that a lot of people are going to be really happy with is the fact that the Verna has ventilated seats. You might not think it's a big deal right now because it's monsoons. It's not that hot out, but trust me, when summer comes back around, you are going to love the ventilated seats, especially when you get back into your car if it's been parked out on a hot day. The seats are boiling hot, while the ventilated seats brings that down instantly.
All right, that should answer his question. In fact, he had one more question. He did ask us something else as well. I think he asked us about the silent. Which one is the silent cabin between the two?
Okay.
Between the Verna diesel, but he's asking about the diesel yet again. The Verna diesel and the City diesel.
So that's a little tricky. If one were to go by the general NVH characteristics of both cabins, the City has the overall more polished cabin experience in the sense that NVH levels on the whole are lower. The suspension is just a little bit quieter. You hear just a little bit less road noise. So extrapolating what we know about those petrol variants into the diesel variant, now we do know that the new diesel engine, the BS6 diesel engine, is very quiet, but the Verna's diesel engine is quiet as well. I think overall the edge might go to the City.
All right. Rohit, this next one is for you. Nitin Joshua wants to know, will Honda be getting the 1-liter turbo present in Thailand, the city, in the near future?
Right, Nitin. So, like we mentioned in the review of the Honda City as well, they are considering the RS variant. They are rather doing their customer clinics and they're still taking customer feedback. Now, I don't know how that's happening during the current situation of the lockdown or the unlocked happening, but yeah, that is being evaluated. But let me also tell you that they evaluated the RS trim for the Civic as well, and they didn't find a lot of takers for it, so that trim or that variant never made it to India. With the Honda City, things might be a little different now with the Rapid and the Verna creating a little bit of excitement about those 1-liter turbocharged engines. So if there are enough customers talking to Honda, asking them about this 1-liter variant, then yeah, Honda could consider that. Now they're also considering just the RS trim without that 1-liter turbo engine as well. The body work I'm talking about, all the accessories and the trim packages that you get with the RS. So that is also being considered. So if you only get customers talking about the sporty styling and not the 1-liter turbo variant, then at a dealer level, certain accessories from the RS trim might also be available for the Indian market. But both of these things are still being considered. There's still no concrete info on whether they will come to India or not.
All right. Lennon, we don't mind so many of your questions like you mentioned in your comment section, but I have a grouse with you. You have missed our Verna review that happened last week, which is why you're asking us whether it has a bigger sunroof like the new Creta 2020. So is there anything else that you guys would like to talk about this comparison test in particular? Did you all disagree on some points regarding these cars?
No, I don't think we disagreed on any of the points, but I believe both of us might end up choosing different cars. What car would you go with, Simran, if you had to pick in the current range?
Okay, so in the current sedan range, I think you've already made my pick quite clear. It would be the Rapid TSI for me every single day. That engine, that engine and gearbox just come together so well, so well. I do know that not everyone is as perhaps one-track minded as I am, and they do want several other things from their sedan, especially if it's going to be a family sedan. The Rapid does not have the kind of space in the rear seat to make it a family sedan that maybe the elders in the family would appreciate. You would have a very good time, but maybe not everybody else. So for me, it would be the Rapid. If I were to suggest a car for anybody else at this point in time, I think it's the City. The only fly in the ointment I see happening is Honda going horribly wrong with their pricing, which I
Which
don't know.
unfortunately is something we've seen even with the CRV and the Civic, that the pricing was a little farther than what we all expected. And I think that's going to happen with the Honda City as well, especially because Honda has categorically told us that the 4th generation City is going to coexist in its certain variants and certain trim levels. So with that happening, I think the new City will sort of go beyond what we are expecting in terms of the pricing.
So, in our comparison between the City and the Verna, which was the petrol manual variants compared, the only way I could address it without knowing the price was to take price out of the equation, in which case the City is still the better car. Now, how much of a premium would people be willing to pay for just a slightly more polished car in a lot of areas, even though the City does set benchmarks? I think given the current economic scenario, it's not going to be a very wide margin. So, Honda, please don't get too cocksure and just price the City out of the reach of most people.
All right, we have a question yet again that from Nitin Joshua. He wants to know whether, sorry, I've just missed his, yeah. He wants to know whether upsizing tires from 185/55 R16 to 195 will it affect the warranty in the upcoming City?
Okay, so this is an interesting question for sure. We do know some brands they void the warranty if you do change the tires. Now, if you go up a size, the warranty usually is void. If you change the brand of the tire within the same size, you should be okay. That being said, the 185/55s on the City definitely could use an upsize. I think 195s, like you've mentioned, would be the perfect size for it. Be prepared to lose maybe a little bit in fuel efficiency. Uh, the conventional wisdom says you could lose anything from 2 to 7% in fuel efficiency when you upsize a tire.
All right, I think those are the questions that we could take regarding this particular road test. In this particular comparison test, we'll just have to wait a while longer when we can get all of these cars together. Simran, thanks so much for joining us today on the show and bringing in your perspective on this. We'll catch up with you soon, yet again, when you drive another car. All right. I'll just we'll just move on to our next very important news. In fact, it came in from Hyundai. They have now, in fact, introduced their new IMT, the Intelligent Manual Transmission. It's, in fact, the first of its kind in the country in the 1-liter TGDI petrol variant of the Venue. Basically, as I understand, the Venue will offer the convenience of driving an automatic without a clutch pedal, but you'll still have to slot your gears manually to enable the 6-speed gearbox, right, Rohit?
Yes, so you will not get the convenience of an automated transmission like you would get in an AMT. In fact, when people read the IMT badging or the news, everyone thought this was an AMT. So this is not an AMT. This is not Hyundai's version of an AMT. This works on a slightly similar principle, yes, but this is not an automated transmission. So it will not do the shifting for you. It will only take away the process of pressing the clutch pedal. That's all that it's going to do. So it is still a manual transmission. You will still be selecting and shifting gears manually, just that there is no clutch pedal involved. So that is what essentially it is. So it has something called an intent sensor. So every time you touch the gear lever, it will understand your intent that you want to make a gear shift, and it will be prepared for the shift with all the different sensors in the car. It will also take a look at what is the kind of engine speed you're doing, and all those sensors will then be prepared for either a downshift or an upshift. If you downshift, there will be a rev match that will happen. If you upshift, then obviously it's going to take care of a very smooth transition from the lower gear to the upper gear. Now, IMT inherently claims lesser transmission shock as compared to what you get in the AMT. Also, because you are doing the shifting, you're mentally sort of prepared for the shift to happen. So the transmission shock doesn't feel as pronounced as what you would feel maybe with an AMT. So like I said, bottom line, it's not an automated transmission. It is still a manual transmission. But the good news is you may not require knee replacement surgery because you don't have to keep pressing the clutch. It's, I think, a very good option for anyone who is looking at buying a compact SUV like this for urban commutes. Bert is online, I believe. Bert, I just saw Bert.
Yes.
But do you want to
Bert is right.
add something about the IMT as well that Hyundai announced today?
Hello, and yeah, talking about Hyundai's IMT, I mean, I think it's a very convenient form of, or rather, convenience feature more than anything else. It'll be easier to drive cars. Keep in mind, the biggest grouse that we had with AMTs was that the actuation of the gears wasn't as quick. Now, this is something that we still have to experience, but I would assume that there have been several developments in that regard. So the IMT essentially will take out that lag, will give you far better or rather quicker responses where it's concerned, but without you having to actually use your left foot on the clutch pedal all the time. So it'll make things a lot easier, a lot more convenient. Keep in mind, a lot of as we come out of this lockdown, we head into in the few months ahead that we come back to normalcy. Traffic conditions will increase on our roads. Not just increase on our roads, but also keep in mind a lot more people are now going to be buying cars to utilize for personal mobility. Uh, and effectively, what would happen is traffic and congestion would increase considerably. A lot of people who use public transport, whether it was buses, auto rickshaws, share taxis, share cabs, carpooling for that matter, or even the trains, local trains if they are in your city, all of those people are now going to start and think about private or other personal mobility. And in those conditions, something like the IMT, for those who are also looking out for a little more pleasure out of their vehicle, it would serve much better.
All right. We in fact have a couple of questions regarding the IMT itself. We have a question from Mihir Rao, asking us, is the IMT similar on the grounds of paddle shifters?
No, Mihir, IMT is not similar on the grounds of, or similar to the paddle shifters. The paddle shifters actually come in torque converter transmissions or dual clutch transmissions. They're fully automatic transmission systems. The IMT, keep in mind, is just again like the AMT, similar to the AMT. That as in, it's got a clutch actuator on the gearbox, and that effectively reins in the clutch, shifts the gear, and as you shift the gear, except that you do not have to use a clutch pedal. So you will still have a synchromesh gearbox. You will still select your gears using your your shifter, your stick shifter, which is on the transmission tunnel. You will not have paddle shifters behind the steering wheel where you can just go up and down the gears. So that's not going to happen.
In fact, Harshit would want to know whether the mileage will be a factor here. Will we see better mileage in an IMT?
Uh, Harshit, not necessarily. You won't see better mileage in an IMT. You will get the same mileage that you would get in a manual transmission. Keep in mind, this is still a manual transmission at the end of the day, and the effect is similar to AMTs. Also, AMTs didn't give you better or worse efficiency. Exactly works on exactly the same principles. So, getting out that efficiency will driving habits, the way you drive your car. Apart from that, otherwise, it will give you exactly should give you exactly the same mileage as what you would get on a manual car.
Nitin Joshua, in fact, tells us that he has seen an IMT struggling while reversing on a slope. Is that true?
Well, Nitin, yes, I do believe that could be an issue. Keep in mind, a lot of times when in uphill conditions, whether you're driving uphill or reversing uphill or whatever you're doing, if there's an incline that you need to go up, sometimes you would use the clutch, you'd half clutch and draw on the power to kind of go up that. I have this problem several times because I park on a steep slope, almost a 25-degree incline, and driving a manual car, I usually have to drive up for about a couple of meters to pull in the clutch. So yes, there could be a possibility of the IMT struggling, whether you're going uphill forward or you're reversing up a slope. However, I would actually reserve my opinion for when we can actually drive a car with the venue with the IMT and experience all of this. There could be a few challenges in some situations. There could be a challenge.
I think it's a very disconcerting concept, right? Because if you're used to driving a manual gearbox and suddenly the clutch pedal disappears, but you still have to shift the gears, it takes a little while getting used to, right? It'll be a little
Actually,
difficult.
not at all. It's not difficult. It's just the fact that you have to keep in mind you do not have a clutch pedal any longer. So your left foot is essentially sitting or rather staying there idle and doing nothing. A lot of people get confused because they immediately shift the left foot onto the brake pedal, and that could be a lot more dangerous because you don't realize what you're doing. You still have to drive a car like you regularly would, which is using your right foot to actuate both the brake pedal and the accelerator. If you're using your left foot and you know how to do that very well, I mean, don't drivers do that.
All right. Now we have a lot of questions that have come in regarding, let's see. There's Siddharth who wants to know how good will the rapid 1 liter turbo automatic be compared to the DCT?
Rohit, I'll leave those questions
Right.
to you.
I think it could be theoretically better than the DCT because through a lot of videos and reviews, I have always said that small engines and DCTs aren't the best match, especially while driving in the city. A lot of owners of small engine DCTs will tell you that the gearbox feels very jerky while driving in the city. You've seen that with a lot of Volkswagen Polos as well. So compared to that, an automatic or a torque converter, I think at least on paper, theoretically should be better, should be smoother, should be just the way a traditional automatic gearbox is. And that's, I think, something that we can expect from the Polo or the Rapid when the automatic transmission comes out.
All right. Here's an interesting question. In fact, from Vineet, what will be a better option, the Venue IMT or the Verna Turbo DCT?
Well, I think the IMT would I don't expect it to give the exact same driving pleasure that you would get out of the DCT. And the DCT would definitely be a better transmission choice. So that's the Verna Turbo DCT would definitely be a better car to drive compared to the Venue IMT.
All right.
They're fully
Yes.
on the transmission and not the abilities of the two cars otherwise.
Suresh has an interesting question as well. He wants to know why are most of the BS6 cars like Ertiga, XL6, City, Verna, Yaris all equipped with similar 1500cc engines? Is there any specific reason to this?
Well, that's a good sized engine to fit into the engine bay without actually compromising on space. Packaging is very essential because these are small, compact cars as of yet. They're not extremely large cars in that sense. They need smaller four-cylinder engines to fit well within that engine bay and yet keep space inside the cabin, passenger cabin, adequate, comfortable. So that's one of the reasons. Also, most modern 1500cc or 1.5 liter engines are capable of delivering do you need larger? Not necessarily. You don't need larger engines for that matter. However, in the future, we will see smaller engines for that matter. Turbocharged petrol engines are getting more popular because they are able to meet the emission norms and still deliver on the power that is required for these cars. Now, the 1500cc engines, as of yet, are still able to meet and match emission norms globally. And that is why we're still seeing these cars on these engines on cars like the Ertiga XL6 City, whatever is there in that segment. So that's one of the principal reasons why these engines still exist in these cars. Going forward in the future, it'll get tougher and tougher for even 1.5 liter engines to meet those emission norms, and you will probably see further downsizing 1.2, 1.4 liter engines coming into play.
All right. Rohit, this one's for you. Saurav wants to know, is there any news on the Toyota Corolla Altis coming in this year?
No, this year the only new product that we'll see from Toyota is a rebadged version of the Vitara Brezza, something similar to what they did with the Baleno and the Glanza. We'll see a rebadged Vitara Brezza, which will happen sometime around September. At least that's what the scheduled plan is, and hopefully they are on schedule. But that's the only thing coming out from Toyota this year. Next year, maybe the Corolla and the updated Fortuner could be what Toyota will concentrate on for the Indian market.
All right. Vinod is looking for a mid-range model. He wants to know between the Altos and the Baleno for use in the city as well as the highway, which one should he go for? Is there any other option as well?
I'd recommend the Baleno definitely over the Altos, though the Altos isn't a bad car at all. It's a very impressive car and works better in works. I would say better, but works well in the city as well. However, the Baleno is definitely superior on almost every count to the Altos. And I know my Twitter feed's gonna overthrown by all of these trolls who are gonna come and say a lot of things about me recommending the Baleno or the Altos. But the fact remains that the Baleno is still a better package overall than the Altos. Keep in mind also that the Baleno is a larger car overall as well, where especially where interior packaging is concerned. Um, and it's got better ride quality. It delivers better in terms of both performance. I don't recollect the efficiency offhand. Rohit, if you remember those figures, you can raise that over here. But I believe the Baleno will also give you better efficiency where this is concerned. My largest concern between the Tata and the Maruti cars are essentially reliability, longevity, and while the Altroz is still a very early, and it's too early to actually say what quality it will have over a period of time. We've already seen that the Baleno holds its value pretty well. The interiors, they still the good all of those rather characteristics have seen Baleno sell very well and being very well appreciated in the market. The Ultros, again, good quality at first sight, but I think it will take us some time, probably another 6 to 8 months or a year, for us to understand just how well the Ultros is built and if there are any issues cropping up there.
All right. Eddie wants to know which CVT car is the most affordable as well as a car which has good space.
Rohit,
I
you want
think
to take
at the
that?
moment, the Honda Amaze is quite an amazing bet for that criteria that you've mentioned. It is a sub 4 meter car. It's priced quite well, and the CVT that they've developed for the Amaze, both on the petrol as well as the diesel, it is one of the most fuel efficient CVTs that you can buy in that particular space. So I think from an affordability and a fuel economy perspective, you could choose between the Amaze petrol and diesel CVTs.
All right. And we'll just take one more question before we dive into the other bit of information. Sachin wants to know the Hyundai i10 Neo Sports AMT or the Swift ZXI AMT?
The Swift ZXI AMT, that's my choice. I think, yes. Having said that, however, I have not driven the i10 Neo Sport, to be honest. And Rohit has driven that car, hasn't he?
I haven't driven the turbo variant yet. Unfortunately, the launch happened during the lockdown, and
Yeah.
we've not been able to procure a test unit yet. So we don't have figures on that. But yeah, I mean, I've driven the Aura with the turbocharged engine, and it is quite a nice package. But the Swift is still the better driver's car. So if you are a driving enthusiast, I think the Swift is marginally better in all respects.
All right. So I think we'll take a break from the questions, but you can still send us your questions. We'll keep answering them on the side as well. Moving on, 2018 was the last time that Audi decided to give the Q5 a facelift, and now it will be bringing in a 2021 model. It's got a new face as well, and it will be coming to India pretty soon. We believe it will be coming to India the first quarter of 2021. Here's a look at that video.
Audi has given the Q5 a midlife update. In doing this, the two-row SUV has been visually brought in line with the rest of the Audi SUV lineup. Consequently, it gets many new styling cues first seen on the Q8 flagship. There's the new Audi grille, wider and flatter than before. The headlamps have been sharpened up and get the segmented LED lighting seen on cars like the A6 and the A8. Also, the bumper is now sharply cut with their triangular elements. In fact, with these new bumpers, the Q5 has now grown 19mm in length. At the rear, there are new tail lamps and a chunkier ornamental diffuser. Notably, Audi's pioneering OLED lighting tech is available on the Q5 as an option now. Each rear lamp is split into 3 tiles of 6 segments each and allows for different light designs and signatures. Further, there are 2 style packages to choose from, the more stately Advanced line and the sporty S line. A blacked out trim can be option 2. The cabin remains largely unchanged. The 12.3-inch virtual cockpit continues to grab attention in its newest iteration. There are 3 design trims to choose from here as well, and there is a suite of navigation and connected car features on offer. A simplified version of this could make it to India. The European Q5 will be shipped with a 204 PS 400 Nm 2-litre diesel in the 40 TDI variant, but the India spec Q5 is expected to be powered by the same 2-litre turbo petrol motor seen in the new Audi A6. In its 45 TFSI iteration, the motor puts out 245 PS and 370 Nm. A 7-speed dual-clutch automatic is expected to be paired with this, along with an all-wheel drive option. As we reported earlier, the updated Q5 is expected to make its way into India early next year.
In fact, when this video was put out on our YouTube channel, we did get a question from Abhiram asking us whether this is better than the BMW X6 and the Volvo XC60 when it comes to driving pleasure and the seating of 5 in comfort. Rohit, your take on that?
Well, the X6 is not the competition for this car at all. The X6 is a coupe SUV to begin with, and it resides in a higher bracket. It's one size
X3,
larger.
Rohit, X3.
Okay, so if it's the X3 that you're talking about, in fact, we do have a comparative review of the X3, the XC60, and the Q5. Remember, this Q5 that you just saw on the screen is a facelift of the model that we had reviewed for the comparison. The only difference being the car that we had in the comparison was a diesel, and now Audi, at least in India, is on a no diesel strategy for some time. And what we are expecting with the new Q5 is going to be the 45 TFSI petrol variant, an engine similar to what we have in the current A6. That's exactly what we said in the video as well. And even then, I think the better car in terms of drivability is still the X3. Dynamically, it's the better car. The new Q5 will certainly have an upper hand in terms of the features, but the overall feel-good factor, as an overall package, it's the XC60 which won our comparison, and even with the petrol variant of the updated Q5, I don't know if that will change by much. But let's wait till this car comes here. Let's see how Audi packages it for the Indian market, what new features are being brought to India. If it manages to get connected technologies, it will have an upper hand over the entire competition. And if it does that, if it also gets in some ADAS technology safety features, then the Q5 could be the better product, because there is nothing that you can pinpoint and say, oh, this could have been better, this is not as good. It's just that there are better cars in the segment in terms of an overall package.
I would say I love the paint scheme though. It's very refreshing and different
Yes,
paint scheme.
the new green color definitely looks good. It's derived from the shade of green that you get on the RS-Q8. In fact, someone was mentioning something about the RS-Q8. That car is expected, and since we are again making mentions to the comment section, someone also asked us what is the next car from Audi for the Indian market. And the next car would be the Q7. That was updated last year. We also did a review. That review is up on YouTube. And the launch was supposed to happen sometime right now, but it's been delayed a little bit. But by the festive season, definitely expect the new Q7 to hit the market right after the RS7 does.
In fact, Eddie has asked us, do you think the Audi Q5 design language is somewhat like the Lamborghini Urus?
I won't completely agree to that. In fact, Audi's current design language is closer to the Volkswagen range more than the Lamborghini range. But yes, of course, the Lamborghini Urus, the Audi RS-Q8, and the Bentley Bentayga, the Porsche Cayenne, they all share a few underpinnings here and there. So because of the size, because of the basic structures, somewhere there are similarities. The silhouette does look similar on some of the cars, but no, I can't draw straight comparisons between the Q5 and the Urus. They're very different cars, very different intent, and very different styling as well in my books.
Also, Nitin wants to know how are the gearboxes, the ZF's torque converter used in the BMW compared to the DSG and the Audis?
Well, the ZF torque converters, again, quite a lot of appeal for them with most of the manufacturers. Keep in mind, DSG, the Volkswagen Group, largely uses the DSG automatic transmissions. Having said that, however, a lot of other manufacturers are also moving towards dual clutch transmissions because, again, it has shown that it's quicker and now in more modern times reliable as well. So you get better performance out of the DSG gearboxes, but ZF stock converter for a very, very long time. I mean, that's been the industry standard where automatic transmissions are concerned. And even to date, a lot of proven choice.
All right, so we'll just move on with our information for people. Now, Honda had opened bookings for the WRV for a while now. And now the WRV has been launched in the country. It has been priced at 8.5 lakh rupees for the petrol variant, and this goes up to 11 lakh rupees ex-showroom for the top spec diesel engine. The most prominent change, as you can see, is the new front grille and the new lighting element with the DRLs. The facelift can be had with two engine options, the 1.2 liter IV Tech petrol, which makes 90 PS and 110 Newton meters and is paired with a 5-speed manual. The 1.5 liter ID Tech, which is the same as the Honda City, makes 100 PS and 200 Newton meters. This is paired with a 6-speed gearbox. The petrol has an ARAI certified fuel efficiency of 16.7 kilometers to the liter, while the diesel returns 23.7 kilometers to the liter. Both of these engines, as expected, are BS6 compliant. Now, earlier this week, Nissan has also teased the Magnite images. This is what it looks like. This is the all-new B SUV that will be positioned below the Kicks SUV. The concept will be unveiled from Nissan headquarters, in fact, in Japan on the 16th of this month. Earlier, we had reported that the Magnite will be priced around the 5 lakh rupee price bracket, going up against the likes of the Quid and the Espresso, or even the Mahindra KUV 100. Rohit, your thoughts on this little teaser that we've got right now?
I think the first thing that the teaser confirms is what we spoke about when we gave out the scoop about the pricing, and that is the grill. The grill is very similar to what you see on Datsun cars and not the V Motion grill that you currently see as a signature on the Nissan car. So the design, I think, is going to be more in line with what we've seen on the Redigo. If you've seen the new Redigo facelift, you have very slim headlamps up top, and then you have the big daytime running lights in the bumpers, L-shaped ones, and then you have the diamond grille that you see on the Datsun cars. So all of that is something that you now also see on the Nissan Magnite. So I think it is going to draw a lot of design inspiration from the new Redigo, at least as far as the front end goes. The tail end, like it was shown in the previous teaser images, is going to be very similar to what we've seen on the Kicks. So I think in terms of the design, it is still going to be a very good looking car. If the competition is something like the KUV 100, I certainly think that the Magnite will have an upper hand because compared to the KUV or the Espresso or its own Quid, this might have a slightly better design language, something that is more aspirational compared to the entry level compact SUVs or even some of the sub 4 meter compact SUVs for that matter.
Okay. What are
Hi,
your
so
thoughts on the Nissan Magnite?
yeah, my largest concern over here, more than anything else, while it looks interesting, those teasers definitely they pick your curiosity. You want to know more about what the car looks like. What I'm more concerned about is what the quality is going to be, because keep in mind this started off life as a Datsun and eventually has now become a Nissan. So quality is going to be quality has got to be right up there if Nissan wants this car, I would say, gain some amount of attention in the Indian market. If the quality and especially the interiors, we haven't seen the interior as of yet. We haven't been teased about that, but interior quality will matter a lot. The quality of plastics, the quality of buttons and dials, and even then the way that it drives overall. We're still waiting to see how all of this comes together. So yes, there's a lot riding on the Magnite for Nissan in India. Let's keep fingers crossed that it's a good product and a product that a lot of people will enjoy. They've had some gems in this market. Let's not forget that. But again, this is a big ask of Nissan. The very important segment. SUVs are the flavor of I don't know, for the last 2 years. For that matter, SUVs have been the flavor. There's a lot riding on this SUV, and
And
let's hope.
Nitin wants to know, do you think that the 1 liter turbo with CVT will be powerful for the Magnite SUV?
Uh, with the CVT, yes, the 1 liter turbo. I mean, we've seen this in the venue in any case, and it does extremely well over there. I'm not a big fan of the 1 liter turbos for that matter, especially in these SUVs, but I do understand where they come from. It's a need for meeting emission norms and, of course, to deliver on fuel efficiency expectations. So, in that sense, the 1 liter turbos work very well. But ideally, I mean, they work brilliantly in compact hatchbacks where you can really maximize their power, get the best out of those engines, and experience the kind of performance from them in small cars, whether it's the Neos Turbo or even the Polo for that matter. You get fantastic performance out there. The larger SUVs, what you essentially need, and this is what I've discovered, keeping in mind again the venue is my long term over here. We drove it to Delhi earlier this year for the Auto Expo, and out on the highways, especially through Gujarat, Rajasthan, big highways, long roads, lots of straights out there. The venue definitely runs out of steam at the top end, and this I think could be a concern with most of these SUVs which come with the 1 liter turbo engines. You just don't have enough of grunt at the top end to keep enjoying that driving experience. So I think that would be the only challenge. Otherwise, the 1 liter turbo with the CVT also for that matter is powerful and good enough for something like the Magnite.
All right. And your Paritosh wants to know what engine option can we see in the updated Volkswagen Tiguan?
Well, we don't engine options will be like, and if Volkswagen is going to increase or add something over there for that matter. But anything that will be there will just be upgradations done to enhance the power ratings to make it more compatible with any emission norms that comes out in the future, and of course fuel efficiency expectations for that matter. Will there be a larger range of engines? Well, I don't think that will be there. However, what we do know is the Volkswagen will largely be focusing only on petrols, in the near future. So you may get to see a couple of options if the Volkswagen decides to offer that. Otherwise, I don't think there's much else that we can expect from the Tiguan at this point in time. Largely, a lot of the focus is now going to move on towards the Tiguan and the T-Roc for that matter. So let's see what happens on that front.
All right, here's a request. Anshuman wants to know, can a 1.4-liter turbo have a long life of 15 years, especially in the Seltos, the 1.4-liter manual petrol?
Please, it's a request. The 1.4-liter turbo have a long life of 15 years. Absolutely. However, given the 10-year regulation, I don't know how many places that will that apply to. Having said that, a lot of modern engines have got tremendous reliability and longevity. They can really run for miles on end. And yes, a 1.4-liter turbo can work well for about 15 years. Now, what you haven't mentioned is the mileage that you would put on a car of this sort. 15 years, yes, in 15 years, if you do just 100,000 kilometers, very comfortable. If you do 500,000 kilometers, there could probably be issues. So mileage will effectively decide what the condition of the engines are. It's not just the number of years that you will use that car for.
All right, there's yet another question about the city. Sanjay wants to know, city CVT versus the 1R petrol automatic. Which one would you choose?
Rohit, that one's for you.
Well, I would go with the Honda City CVT because again, if I'm an enthusiastic driver, I would settle for the manuals. I wouldn't go with the automatic. But if I want either of these cars for my daily commutes, it would be the City CVT. The new CVT has been tuned beautifully. Always remember Hyundai's automatic transmissions haven't had a very good fuel economy number to boast of, and that's the same for the Verna as well. This is the updated engine. It's definitely more fuel efficient than the previous 1.6. But at the same time, what the city now manages with the 1.5 CVT is phenomenal. In fact, in our test, even in our road test and the video review we published, we highlighted our own test figures where the CVT petrol returned better fuel economy figures than even the manual. And that says volumes about what the CVT is and how it's being tuned by Honda. So if I had to make a choice, I would go with the Honda City CVT.
All right, up next, we have some very disappointing news. Now, Bert, you have attended plenty of these Geneva motor shows, and the 2021 Geneva Motor Show has been cancelled. So this will come as actually, this doesn't really come as a surprise because it has been cancelled for this year as well. And it's a motor show that has seen 600,000 visitors a time on the ground and over 10,000 journalists, but the organizers have decided to cancel next year's motor show because of the, backed by the heavy losses suffered by the organizers due to the event's cancellation this year on account of the coronavirus pandemic, and an unwillingness among the auto manufacturers to participate in the upcoming show. The group, though, has said that the steps are being taken to ensure an international motor show does take place in Geneva itself in 2022.
Well, it's a fact. A lot of these motor shows are facing commercial issues, participation issues as well, and it's making a lot of these motor shows redundant. Also, keep in mind there was a time and age when manufacturers didn't have as many models out for global markets. They didn't have as many concepts, so it is easier to do these one or two concepts, one or two new introductions at a motor show. These days, there are far more motor shows existing around the world, from North America to Europe itself, having three large shows, then coming down to Asia as well. You've got China, you've got Japan. There's just so many motor shows that take place all of these motor shows. So yes, motor shows like Geneva, especially traditional motor shows like Geneva, are finding it difficult to get participation and to have the budgets necessary, to organize it. Having said that, Geneva has actually been is actually one of the favorites for a lot of motoring journalists, for that matter. One, because it's a small show, 3 to 4 halls, spread across 3 to 4 halls, and you just keep descending them. For instance, at Frankfurt Motor Show is a huge motor show. It takes just hours and hours, and I know almost every journalist who complains about aching feet at the end of the day, having walked for kilometers on end, trying to see whatever they can pack into that one day, and still not getting an understanding of what is what various other halls represent and are displaying. So it's always a challenge at some of the other motor shows, Paris, Frankfurt. But Geneva has always been very, very media friendly in that sense, because it's a smaller place, and for a show as prestigious, as important as Geneva, to be calling it a day, it really, I think, yeah, I mean, it's sad that something of that sort has to happen. It is not just
Also,
beautiful because of the cars, but also because this is the horological center for the planet. I mean, this is where all the timepieces, all the watchmakers, have their offices, and so I mean, I being a watch aficionado as well. I mean, I used to enjoy going to Geneva just for probably spend a day additionally and go around, whether it's going towards Lake Geneva, having a holiday around there, or just stopping by all of those watch stores and looking at those beautiful watches. But yeah, I mean, shit happens. What do you say?
actually, last week when we did report that Intermot had also been cancelled, the organizer at least thought of going the digital route. So, do you think that a digital motor show works in such a case, or is it not really worth manufacturers' time?
It's far more difficult for manufacturers to participate in a digital show of this sort, because keep in mind, manufacturers respond to market needs faster and faster, so it's difficult for them to kind of hold on to the plans for a particular motor show or to do this at one single event, which is why with the lockdown, a lot of manufacturers are now resorted to doing digital launches. It's easier, it's more convenient, it draws them a larger audience, and they do this at a fraction of the cost that you would have spent otherwise on a motor show part on participating in motor shows, or actually doing on ground physical events. So I think the trend is definitely changed. It is here to stay. I think we're going to see more individual announcements and launches happening from manufacturers. It also gives them the luxury of time and space. They can do this at any point in time. They don't need to wait for a particular motor show or something of that sort to happen. So yes, that change is going to happen. Will a digital motoring show really work out? I'm not entirely convinced if there is space and room for that. But just general manufacturers doing their own thing, I think that's where the attention is shifting to.
All right. We'll just head over for the two-wheeler news. Rohit, I'll let you take us through that.
Right. So I think the biggest news is from the EV stable, let's put it that way. The Bigos EVs, the scooters that we spoke about from RR Global a little while back. So finally, we have information on that. So there are two variants that will be on offer. There is the B8 and the A2. Now the B8 will be the top of the line. It's powered by a 1900 watt hub mounted motor. It's an electric motor mated to a 1.4 kilowatt hour battery pack. The interesting news is you can have this with either a lead acid battery, a fixed lead acid battery, or a removable lithium ion battery. So that is essentially what will dictate the pricing and the range. The batteries have a 3-hour charging time for the lithium ion pack, or a 7 to 8 hour charging time for the lead acid battery pack. The lower end variant is the A2, which uses a very small 250 watt motor. It's got a top speed of about 25 kilometers per hour. So it's essentially a step up from a bicycle and something that you could use for basic commuting around the city. And this one comes with a lead acid battery pack, again, a 7 to 8 hour charging time. It's a 1.29 kilowatt hour battery. Now, the pricing for these scooters is going to be somewhere between 50,000 rupees all the way up to 1.4 lakh rupees. So the A2 is essentially the cheaper one, and the B8, like I said, is going to be the more expensive one. The B8 I'm expecting is going to be priced between 95 to 1.4. The next news is from Hero. Now, Hero has the new Extreme 160 that has been revealed. So this is something that was revealed earlier as well, but now the launch has finally happened. We had a walk around video. In fact, those are the visuals that you're seeing on the screen right now. It's called the Extreme 160R. The design is inspired from the Extreme 1R concept that was shown at last year's EICMA. And the rivals continue to be the Apache RTR 160, there's the Suzuki Gixxer, Yamaha FZ version 3, and of course the Bajaj Pulsar NS 160. So this 160cc engine, BS6 compliant, of course, puts out 15 PS of power, 14 Newton meters of torque. And it's not the most powerful engine that you find in this category or within the rivals that I just mentioned, but it is right in between. So it's got a decent power and torque figure to boast of. Fuel economy should be good as well. Being a hero product, I'm sure fuel economy has been number one priority. But I really love the styling of this motorcycle. It brings a fresh new styling. Now, all the motorcycles that I mentioned, the Apache RTR 160, the Gixxer, all of them have that beefy, muscular stance. This one has it too, but the way it is designed, the way they have put everything together, it really looks nice, looks more purpose-built, more purposeful as compared to some of its competition. So the pricing, I think, is going to be key for this motorcycle because it starts at a shade under 1 lakh rupees, 99,950 to be exact, and you throw in a few more monies and you get a rear disc brake variant as well, which I think is for about 1 lakh 3,000. So I think in terms of specs, in terms of styling, and in terms of pricing, Hero's got it right again, and I think this should be a very successful product in this particular range. In fact, we've seen a lot of crowding in this particular space, but this product I think will be received quite well. In fact, we are hoping to ride this motorcycle sometime next month, and once we do, we'll have a review out for you as well. And the other news comes from the other side of Hero, which is Honda. The Levo that we talked about last week has finally been launched in its BS6 avatar. It's got a slightly sharper styling than before. The pricing is about 10,000 rupees more than the outgoing BS4 counterpart. It's priced at a little under 70,000 rupees, and you also have a disc brake variant for this. Now, the pricing is very similar or almost in the same range as the Shine 125. So while the Shine is like the no-nonsense commuter motorcycle, this one is a little more trendy, targeted towards a more youthful audience. So that is why the slightly sharper styling, you get the digital display, very similar to some of the other Honda products. And the engine is carried over. It's a 110cc engine, puts out about 8.79 PS of power, 9.3 Newton meters of torque. So not a big change over the outgoing counterpart in terms of the output. But like I said, the styling is a little sharper. You also get a ignition kill switch now, and the seat is 17 millimeters longer. So in terms of comfort, it should be slightly better than the outgoing motorcycle. So I think those are all the motorcycle news that we have. Oh yes, how can I forget? There's also the Africa Twin. So yes, it was launched just before the country went into a lockdown, but now the deliveries have commenced. But the bit of bad news, not confirmed from Honda yet, but the bit of bad news is that the bike is sold out for 2020. If you're looking to get a new Africa Twin 1100, you will now have to wait until 2021 if you were not one of the first people to have booked the motorcycle. So yeah, that's the additional bit of info that has not been revealed by anyone so far. The bike is sold out. Now, why I'm laughing is because there was one question. I think we are getting this question repeatedly on every show, and today also we got a question about the Tiger 900 versus the Africa Twin. And why I would like to take this question now is because the pricing of the Tiger 900 has been announced, and it is very similar to that of the Africa Twin. And because the Africa Twin is now available in manual as well as the automatic transmission, it gives you a slight technical edge over the Tiger 900. But because they're priced so similar to each other, it will now come down to personal preference. I haven't ridden the new Africa Twin. We did ride the previous generation Tiger and the Africa Twin together, but I haven't ridden the Tiger 900 and this Africa Twin together. If I had to make a choice, because I've spent a lot of time with the new Tiger 900, I would buy the Tiger 900 in a heartbeat. But yes, you can't ignore some of the additional features that the Africa Twin gives you, like the CarPlay or the big instrumentation that you just saw. Unfortunately, they have not got the electronic suspension to India. So again, on spec, they're very, very closely matched, both the Tiger 900 and the Africa Twin. So it's going to be down to a personal preference. But I would put it this way: if you are a very big off-road enthusiast, if you're going to be riding the trails a lot more with your adventure motorcycle, I think the Tiger 900 would still make for a better choice, because the Africa Twin that came to India is the adventure sport variant, which is essentially targeted towards the touring audience. It even gets a bigger tank to that effect. The ergonomics, the seating, all of that has been designed with touring in mind and not hardcore off-roading. For that, they had the base Africa Twin, which Honda did not bring to the Indian market. So that's my verdict for you. If you are going to be riding the trails a lot, if you need something that's light, something that's agile, the Tiger 900 could be the better choice. But if you're looking at a touring motorcycle and you want a better, cheaper alternative to the okay, let's not say better, but a cheaper alternative to the BMW 1250 GS, the Africa Twin could make for a very good choice.
In fact, right at the start of the show, we had got a question from Hemant asking, will the 2020 Panigale V4 come to India?
Of course it will. In fact, Ducati makes sure that most of their international models do come to India, including some of their limited edition models. So even the Superleggera should be here. I'm sure there will be a few takers for the Superleggera in India as well. And the regular V4, the V4S, all of that, the entire lineup should be available in India as well.
I'd assume, Rohit, that they're already they won't be takers, but they're already taken for that matter where the Superleggera is concerned.
Yes, all the bikes have been spoken for, is what I've heard, and I'm guessing that a couple of units might come to India as well.
Yeah. Moving on from motorcycle news, I think there were a couple of questions that were being asked, some very interesting ones also for that matter. Just to clarify also, Rohit, on the thing we've answered, one of the questions, the C4 could be Citroen's second car for India. Well, that may not be the case. The C4 may not come to India. There's still, because a lot of the focus around the C4 is on the electric version, which is largely for European and then of course to North American markets and some of the other markets in Asia, China and Japan as well. So a large amount of focus is on those markets, and for the electric car to do well, the C4 may not come to India. This is what I've been told by company officials as of now. So what we saw was just again a showcase of the C4 rather than actually any plans being revealed about it for the Indian market. Also, we've got another question which came in from Tessa Plays, who wanted to know more about the company lease option and to know more about what it is, because he's been given one of those options by his company. And I think Tessa Play, you should definitely go in for it, because keep in mind out here you don't really own the car as such. It's hypothecated either to the owner or to the lessee. You just need to drive that car around, so there isn't much that you need to do. Everything else will be taken care of by the company or the lessor, as they call it. So it's one of the best models you can go in for, unless you're really paying out of your pocket, and you need to calculate what the actual expenses come to. Though for most leasing models, they're still fairly affordable, especially where corporate plans are concerned.
We have, sorry.
Do we have time, Sohini?
We are actually simply because you guys are going to start getting busy at 7:30, because there's going to be a premiere of the Rapid versus Verna on all our social media platforms. So, but we could take a couple of questions.
Well, Anshuman had a question. Is there any effective method to clean the carbon deposits in the turbo? Like after 6 to 7 years, there are effective methods to clean the carbon deposits. Most workshops will do that for you, Anshuman. Again, like I said, however, 6 to 7 years, unless you're really looking to keep your engine in top performance, you really don't need to go in for a carbon deposit, or rather to clean up your engine in that duration. Again, like I said earlier, it'll all depend on the amount of mileage you're putting onto your cars. If it's very high mileage, then you definitely have to go and get that suit out. Otherwise, you don't really need to do much for a long period of time. But yes, most workshops, most authorized workshops are capable of doing these cleanup jobs.
We have a question from Karthik as well.
Yeah, good replacement for Wagoner, Stingray, compact sedan or compact SUV, only petrol for weekend, only naturally aspirated or turbocharged. Again, I think some of the compact SUVs that are coming out in this segment, that are there in this segment, are quite interesting. And I think you should just probably wait to see what the Magnite also is like. But otherwise, you've got the Venue, you've got the Brezza, you'll have the Brezza that Toyota will offer in this segment as well. So there are quite a few choices where compact SUVs are concerned. I think those are the best upgrades right now. Moving on from the Wagoner, Stingray, rather than going in for a compact sedan. I don't think Rohit's gonna disagree with me here. Are you, Rohit?
No, I wouldn't. I think right now the compact SUV space or a compact sedan space is the busiest in terms of the amount of options that they offer, and I think the Kia Sonet is also going to come in very soon. So that's another new entrant that will join a current range that is full of really capable SUVs, everything from the updated Vitara Brezza to the Venue to the Nexon. So there's a lot happening in this space, and I think this should be a good place for you to go shopping in. That is full of
Sorry, there seems to be a lag.
Yeah, there seems to be a lag, but coming back to another question, can we take this other question, Rohit? This is on Facebook, and I'm just trying to pick out that question. From Ashish Agarwal, cousin having daily running of 120 kilometers, trying to buy the Aura CNG. Can the Ertiga CNG be taken into consideration? Which one is better, or any other better options? No, these are some of the better options in this segment, especially if you're looking for CNG. The Aura CNG, again, keep in mind you're looking between a sedan and a people mover, an MPV. The Ertiga will give you more space, for that matter. So that's one of the advantages that the Ertiga has over the Aura. But having said that, I think the Aura definitely drives a lot better in the CNG version than the Ertiga CNG. So that if what you're looking for is a little bit of performance or at least some good decent driving pleasure out of your car, then the Aura CNG is a better option. Otherwise, if you're looking for diversity, you're looking for some amount of flexibility, the Ertiga CNG is the better option out here.
All right. I think we'll have to end our Q&A session with that. But I'd like to remind our viewers that Section 144 has been imposed in Maharashtra till July 15th, which means that if you're not part of an essential workforce, please stay at home and step out only when you need to go out for to buy some essential stuff, and only within the radius of 2 kilometers. And if you don't want the additional stress of your car being impounded, you should stay at home. That's a request, and I think we should all take it seriously, right?
Well, we should,
Definitely
absolutely. Yes.
Also, just before we head out, Bert, the last time you drove a Bentley Bentayga, that was a couple of years ago. It was a really luxurious car. You were lucky enough to drive it on a racetrack, right?
Yeah, this was, I think, at the jury round for the Overdrive Awards. I think about almost 3 years ago, 4 years ago. I don't
Yep.
recall it. 2 years ago, I think. I mean, the luxury quotient aside, I mean, it's amazing to see how Bentley have made an SUV that can really hustle its way around a racetrack. Absolutely brilliant, absolutely smashing. That thing just attacks a racetrack, thinking it's a race car. So it's amazing to see what an SUV of that order, of that size, of that, with that kind of power and flexibility can do. It's astounding. Thoroughly enjoyable. I mean, it's a pity that these cars, some of the cars like the Bentayga, come in at that price. It's just exorbitant, but I mean, it's amazing. I hope everyone in the world, definitely, at least every automotive enthusiast in the world, at least gets the chance to drive something like the Bentayga once in their lifetime and just see what that car is capable of. But it is really, really amazing. And yeah,
Just
now there's a
earlier
new.
this week, in fact, they've given a facelift to their most luxury offering. So we'll just say our goodbyes here, and we'll catch up with everybody next week as well. But we leave them with
Yep.
images of the Bentayga.
See you guys. Excuse the hair, but we'll see you soon.
See you guys. Thank you so much for watching. And don't forget 7:30, the Rapid versus Verna, the full comparative review goes up. So stay tuned to Overdrive either on Facebook or on YouTube or on IGTV. The review will be out simultaneously on all these three platforms, 7:30.
All right. Until then, we'll let you dream about the Bentayga.